Welcome to 10,000 Women, 10,000 Stages. Empowering women like you to amplify your voice, your message, your movement. We believe that if 10,000 new women stepped into high-level leadership platforms, we can transform the industries across the planet. 10,000 Women, 10,000 Stages. And now your host, Narissa Street.
Hi, how you doing? I'm so excited that you're back again with us. My name is Narissa Street, and of course, welcome back to 10,000 Women, 10,000 Stages, where we teach you how you can use your voice for the platform to get you to where you want to go. I am so excited to have with us somebody who knows so much about the voice, Miss Jodi Krangle. How are you?
I'm good. How are you doing?
I'm so excited. So, first of all, the audience needs to know who you are. So, who are you?
I've been a voice actor since 2007. I was self-employed, basically since 1999. So I'm way before it was a big thing, you know? Mm-hmm. When I decided to go into voiceover, it was basically just a switch of focus, which was kind of cool. But I learned a lot online, and that's where I got most of my information when I first started. And it's really a wealth of information for anyone right now if they want to get started in it as well. And it's a fantastic environment and community, and really a bunch of very helpful and encouraging people that I'm really glad I know. Other than that, I'm a singer as well, and I put out my own album in 2015, which was jazz, blues, traditional tunes, collaborated with a friend of mine in the UK named Chris Conway, who did all the backing tracks because I'm only a vocalist. So it makes it a little hard to put out an album.
Only a vocalist, so I can only sing.
Okay. Well, but if it's the only thing you do, then you need someone to make the backing tracks for you, right? So that made it a collaborative effort, and he was really fantastic and did a great job. And beyond that,
what's the name of it? You didn't.
It's called Time Will Tell. It's actually on my website. There is a tab, I guess, like a page there for the album. Okay. And beyond that, I have a podcast of my own called Audio Branding, which is all about what I call the hidden gem of marketing. Because a lot of people use it as an afterthought. It's not something they pay a whole lot of attention to. And yet, sound is one of our most intense senses. Sound and smell, actually, are the two most intense. And what you hear can influence your other senses. And what you hear also influences what you buy and who you trust. And it influences us in a lot of different ways. And so the podcast goes into a lot of that and the psychology. And I talk with scientists and musicians and advertising marketing people. And it's been a wild ride, and I love it.
That's great. Now, if you're listening, of course, and not just watching, you'll hear the excellent quality of the voice. I'm very, very excited. So give us a little bit of technical stuff here. What kind of microphone are you using? And if you're just listening, you don't have the option of seeing this amazing. It looks like a booth that you're in. So talk to us about the technical stuff that gives you this lovely crisp sound.
Well, I'm in a 5x4 sound-treated booth. And I say sound-treated, not soundproof. There is a difference. Mm-hmm. And soundproof would keep out a lot of noise, like as much noise as you possibly could, but it's very expensive to do. Mm-hmm. And in most environments, it's probably not really needed. So you can sound treat your area for not all that much money at all and get a very good sound without needing to break the bank. The microphone, however, is a bit expensive. Because I need to do this for my clients and give them as pristine audio as I possibly can on a daily basis, I'm using a Sennheiser 416 mic. So that is a boom mic. It's basically what they call a shotgun mic, and it's used at the top of booms on film sets. And originally that's what it was for, and they're really sturdy. Like, you could drop this thing and it would be totally fine because it's meant for a movie set, right? But the cool thing about it is that it takes the human voice, generally lower toned voices, and pops them a little bit. So for advertising and marketing and most of what I do, it's the perfect mic. It's just fantastic. It's also very directional. So if you're in a less than pristine sound environment, it focuses where the the mic points is where it's going to pick up, and on the sides not so much. So it's great for a travel mic if you're using it in a hotel room in a pillow fort or something like that. Right. And yeah, it's a very versatile type of mic.
That's excellent.
And I love it.
Well, thank you for that, because as I said, the sound is fantastic, and I have had the opportunity to sit on film sets, and yeah, the sound is one of the things that controls all of the movement on this film set. You know, if the sound person does not get the sound that they need, doesn't matter how beautiful the take was, we're doing everything over. So and I think
amazing.
You know, as you're saying, what we hear, you know, we sometimes hear danger. You know, that's that fight or flight. We hear danger first before we see it. So
definitely
those kinds of things. And they also talk about, because I love film, they also talk about how when you are scoring your film, depending on what you're doing with your pacing, you can make the audience look at exactly the same imagery, but have totally different feelings according to what the sound is.
Totally, yes. Yeah. Actually, I interviewed, one of my interviews was with a fellow named John McLean, who is a sound designer at a Vegas studio called Dog and Pony. And yes, I love the name, huh? Yeah. He teaches a course at UNLV on music and film. And one of the things that he talked about in our interview was that he uses this demonstration in his class to show how you can influence a trailer to make you think a movie is like a regular, family movie or a horror movie. Right. So he actually, and you can look this up on the web. I don't know exactly where it is, but I'm sure it's fairly easy to find. Look up, oh my goodness, Christopher Robin, the new movie that came out by Walt Disney, right? Right. And it's basically Ewan McGregor and Winnie the Pooh animated, like, right. CGI, right? So you look up the regular trailer and then look it up as a horror, right. And someone actually took it and made the images sepia colored, and then put like horror music behind it, and it looks like Winnie the Pooh is stalking him.
That's it.
Yeah, it's pretty fantastic. But that's basically just the music changed. There wasn't any voiceover in the trailer. There wasn't a voice or anything like that announcing anything. It was just the images and the music. And you can totally influence what people feel about something by just those things.
Yeah, and that's why I was so interested in having you as an interview subject for this podcast, because definitely where we are now, there is a lot more of us interacting and engaging through a screen, right? And I think what we need to be more conscious of in interacting and engaging through a screen is how our sound and how our voice is being perceived. What are the things that we can do to make sure that our voice is as clear as possible, and that what our voice is doing is not taking away from the message that we have? So I'm excited to get into exactly how we can use our voices in an effective way if all that we have is a microphone, right? So so let's talk about the specifics of being, as you say, a vocalist, but also just someone who your primary source of income is your voice, right? So How does one get into that? What did you do? Or let's just say, let's just tell your story. So how did you step into that as a field?
Yeah, because it's different for everybody, and everyone gets involved in different ways. As a musician, I always have liked using my voice. So that's always been a part of my life, and I love it. And when I volunteered to read books onto tape, and it was actually reel-to-reel tape at the time, this was 1995, 96. I volunteered to read books onto tape for the CNIB, which is the Canadian National Institute for the Blind. So for around a year, I did, just putting magazines and books and everything onto tape so that people who couldn't read the words could hear them. And this was, I think it was before Audible, definitely. But I think books did exist in audio format already. It just wasn't quite as normalized as it is now. But I had a really good time doing that. And I really didn't know that voiceover existed before that. It was kind of an eye-opening experience for me. And what I loved about it was that I almost loved the tech as much as I loved the speaking. So running that reel-to-reel machine, I felt awesome doing that. It was just so much fun. So I think that kind of prepared me to be doing this on my own and wearing a whole lot of hats. So previous to that, I had done a lot of SEO and internet marketing. And so I knew about the internet, and I knew about websites, and I knew about how to promote myself. And that helped me with this too. So I think everything that you learn as you go through life compounds to help you be who you are, who you end up being, and who you want to be. All of it is like stepping stones to get to where you want to be. And everything you've had in your past before accumulates and helps you in what you're doing later. So it may seem completely innocuous and like it has nothing to do with anything, but learning how to do really complicated word processing for my university papers was what helped me understand HTML, which is what helped me get a nice website and know what I was looking for in a good website, which is what helps promote my business now.
Beautiful.
So it's kind of how it all, and I mean, it seems like the strangest progression, but anything that you've done in your past can always have some kind of impact and use in knowledge for what you do in the future. So I don't think there's any bad learning experience.
Yeah, we call it transferable skills.
Yes.
So
Okay.
yeah, I one of the things that I am hoping to inspire my audience to do is to look at everything that they've done as something that will help them be as distinct and as unique as possible when they're stepping forward. And it's great that you have that as a mindset, because of course now it makes you as an artist with the voice, it makes you completely unique. And so you talk about that with audio branding, right?
Yeah, it's definitely a consideration. As far as audio branding is concerned, I always, pardon me, I think of myself as a small part of that audio brand. So when you talk to someone about their brand voice, it doesn't necessarily have to do with the actual voice. It has more to do with who they are in the larger context of everything that they're putting out there. So what do they feel like? What emotion do they want people to feel when they see and hear their brand? So it's a big picture. Branding is huge.
Hey, this is a great episode, right? Want to carry the insight from our show wherever you go? Visit myjoyisvaluable.com for the best resources that we've gathered that are inspired by expert guests. Find support for your business, tools to organize your life, and more. That's myjoyisvaluable.com.
Beautiful, beautiful. And the sound, and again, going back to what we were talking about with film, sound is half of that picture, right? Sound is half of that experience. And I think to the viewer, the listener, the audience in a three-dimensional way.
Mm-hmm.
So talk about what your vocal hygiene looks like when you're preparing to create a sound.
It depends on what I'm doing, but generally, if I'm going into a session with a client, I will try not to have coffee before I go into that session. Mostly because I do like my coffee with cream, and that can make me clear my throat a lot, and it can make me, it can just do odd things to hear. But also, when I'm doing something on a mic and I'm that close, I don't want my mouth to be tacky either. So really the most important thing to do is to be hydrated. Water is the life. It's everything.
So for the audience, because I realized I used a term, like a term that was jargon, right? So for the audience, vocal hygiene is really how are we making the instrument that is our voice as flexible and as ready to work as possible. So you're talking about hydrate. And also you said not having milk. And so having the
Dairy
cream.
products, yeah, they
So
can.
let's really talk about, because I think people really don't understand, think, well, coffee's hydrating. I feel really energetic when I drink coffee.
Yeah, it's
But what
also
are
dehydrating. And there are varying opinions on coffee. I happen to love it, so it's not like I'm going to give it up anytime soon.
Right.
But at the same time, I think it's more what I add to the coffee that becomes the problem. So I add sweetener and I add milk, or not milk, I add cream. But that combination will make my mouth a bit tacky. So you'll hear clicks. And you don't want that in a session. That just makes the audio engineer not like you very much. So that's not a good thing to have happen. And I'm very careful about at least having a bunch of water 20 minutes before the session, just to let it hydrate, to let it get into my system. It does take a little bit of time for you to actually have everything hydrated. It doesn't just happen if you sip a thing of water. Like, it takes some time to be absorbed into your body. So you probably need at least 20 minutes.
Interesting. Okay, and so this is going into something that we talk about as well, self-care. So being aware of what works best for your body, being aware of the hydration, and even as you said that, I think about, and I had to check myself as you're saying that. I was like, oh my gosh, that's right, because like I drink, and then I expect, all right, we're ready.
Yeah.
Ready to go. And
Yeah.
I mean, just allowing yourself the space and the time to prepare for whoever is going to be hearing your voice. So you said 20 minutes. This is good to know. So a couple of other questions here. So
Sure.
I really love the thought of also collaborating with somebody to create this experience. So you said try not to have the clicks so that the engineer is not pulling their hair out. So what are some other things that you do to make yourself attractive to the people who are looking for voiceover talent?
Well, I have good equipment. I have a good recording environment. I'm able to deliver quickly. That is another selling point. Basically, things move really fast right now. So if you are going to take a day and a half to get someone back their audio and it's a 30-second commercial, you're probably not going to get that job again.
Okay.
I can deliver audio to my clients almost within an hour, actually, and I've done it sooner. So it depends on how rushed they need it. It depends on what the project is and how long it is. Generally, when I do things, it's 5 minutes of finished audio or less. So the reason I do that is so that I can make sure that I service my clients in the speed to which they're accustomed. So that if someone sends me something, I'm not working on this 50-hour e-learning project that I have to manage to get in in between everything else, or slip their 30-second commercial in between everything else. I am there. I have finished that job and I've moved on to the next one. And there's no real fires to put out, if that makes sense.
So it sounds like you're doing time management. First of all, you're responsive. So you have a system in place where you're getting the requests and you're able to respond to them very quickly. And then it also sounds like capacity. So understanding the capacity that you have, you said projects that are 5 minutes and less. So it's also going back to self-awareness, understanding what is it that you can produce at a high quality, and how to communicate quickly to the people who need it. So really, really interesting. So where
one other thing, just to add to that just a little bit, I've also discovered over the years what I like doing. And so over 12 plus years of doing this, I've discovered what I enjoy, and I've patterned my business to cater to those things. So there are people who love e-learning. I know there are people who love audiobooks. There are people who love doing cartoons and video games. Not my specialties. And I have decided that I wanted to focus on certain industries and certain genres of voiceover. And that's what I've patterned my career to do. And over time, I think really anyone can do that by turning down jobs they don't want and taking jobs they do for pay that pays them what they're worth.
Excellent. So, okay, so then that's a good question. So going back to branding, right? So it sounds like you have as you said, refusing the work that you don't like, which is great. That's also a conversation of self-care, knowing this is the work that maybe you're capable of, you're talented enough to do, but it's not going to feed your soul, you know? So turning that down and then moving into creating a reputation for excellent work in the work that you like.
Yes.
Right? So how do you, where is that? Is that in a portfolio? Is there like an IMDb for voiceover? Is there a place where people can say, okay, hey, this is Jodi and this is Jodi's brand. This is what I can count on Jodi for. Where do you keep it?
All over my website. Okay. I mean, I have a ton of demos on the website. There are videos, there's audio, there is personal messages from me, there's my blog and my podcast and all of that on the same place. So yeah, if you want branding, that's the place to go.
Okay. So keeping your own website.
Yes. Yeah. Because that's your house. That's that's the place where you live. And social media is great. I know a lot of people who just use Instagram or, Facebook or whatever, and they just have their social media. But the minute that social media goes down, you've lost it all. It's gone. You don't own any of it. So I think a website's pretty important.
Okay. So so on your website, you have a very clear picture of who you are and what kind of work you do. So let's say somebody looks at your website and hears your voice and says, you know what, I have a nice voice too. I'm going to get into voiceover. How do they know that voiceover is something they should be getting into?
They need to be able to commit. And it's funny, I give a lot of resources out to people who ask me, and very rarely do I ever get anyone following up. Because there's a lot that goes into this, and there's a lot of hats that I wear. I've spoken to other people on my podcast and asked them this question, and one of the things that we've agreed is that you need to be your own media empire. Because these days, you're not just one person doing one thing. You have to get your brand out there. You have to hustle in order to get the work, right? No one's going to come to your doorstep if they don't know who you are or what you do or where you are. So it's a thing that you need to be aware of, that if you want to be a voice actor, you're not just talking into a microphone. You're also invoicing clients. You're also chasing down clients if they're not paying on time. You're also doing other things like posting on social media and getting people aware of your brand. You're making a website. You're regularly contacting clients and keeping a CRM and, making sure that you reach out on a regular basis. Mm-hmm. You're dealing with agents and doing auditions for agents. There's a whole bunch. You're your own audio engineer for the most part, because no one's doing it for you. If you're working from home, like we all are right now,
right.
Then you have your own audio and you have to know how to use that audio. So there is a lot that goes into this. I'm not only a voice actor, I'm also an audio engineer, a writer, a social media person. I've become a podcaster and a blogger at the same time. I mean, like it's an enormous amount of work. All wonderful, and I love it, but it is work, and you need to be a business at the same time that you're an artist. So you have to have both sides of your brain going.
Right. So just to stick a pin, a CRM is a customer relationship management service, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the and I think that's the thing, as you're talking about, are you willing to make the commitment? Mm-hmm. So I go back to this a lot when I talk to clients, and I say, it's great that you're skilled at certain things, right? So I'm skilled at a few things. But what are you willing to spend the time doing?
Yes.
When it's not necessarily as exciting as it could be. So there's a lot of mundane things that go into production.
Yeah, there totally are. And you can pay other people to do this. I'm not saying you have to do it forever, right. But you need to be making some coin before you do that.
Exactly. So are you committed to doing the mundane until, you see a return? And if you're not, then you can say, okay, well, maybe this is not the work to do. So it's always, people do a lot where they're excited and passionate, but then passion has to kind of, passion spikes, and purpose, has that steady movement forward. So you have to have both passion and purpose with what you're doing.
There is also a skill to doing this. I mean, just, beyond the fact that it's a business and you wear a lot of hats, you need coaching. It's not something you can just start doing out of the blue, get yourself a mic and record on a piece of software and then say you're a voice actor, because it's not how it works. You need a demo, you need coaching so that you know how to actually connect with the copy you're reading and do what the client wants you to do with it. And this is a very artificial environment. I mean, I'm sitting here talking to a computer screen. Generally, I'm talking to a blank padded wall with a piece of script in front of me and a microphone in my face. And I have to sound like this is natural. Right. That's acting. It's also musical in a way, which is, it helps having a musical background as well, because you can sort of hear the notes and beats of a script and interpret it in a way that's unique to you. But you need to make it sound real. It's
so
it's about being real.
Yeah. So how do you deal with, here's a question. How do you deal with a script where it really is clunky? There's some words in it that you're like, why would they put this word right next to this one?
Yeah.
How do you deal with that?
I see a lot of scripts like this, actually. Introducing. Here's the brand new. Yeah, that's really hard to make it sound like you're talking to your girlfriend over coffee. Like, those kind of things happen. A lot of times I'll use a lead-in. So what that is just like a couple of words like, or so, or yeah, or, whatever, like little words like that can sort of get you into the feeling of the conversational of that script. And, it works better sometimes than others, but you do the best you can. You're there to give your client what they want. And
then you can cut out the and the lead.
You can, but you don't have to. It depends. I mean, it depends on how married they are to the script. In a lot of auditions, I will actually do that because they're listening to 50, 100, 500 different interpretations of this script, and everyone's starting with the same word. So if you just switch it up a little bit and start with a different word, like, yeah, this is going to happen, or whatever, you're not adding too much to the script. You're just making it more human.
Yeah. That's great. That's great. So being able to take and having the confidence to take a risk on what you feel will make it a little bit more human. Because I think that's it really with the communication. As much as we have the screen in front of us, how do we make it more human?
Mm-hmm. You want to make a connection. That's the point.
So here's a question. In person versus virtual. So like this here.
Mm-hmm.
Do you adjust you've been a vocalist, you've recorded something in person, I'm sure you've also performed in person.
Mm-hmm.
How are you adjusting your vocal technique for those two? So talk about in person, what's your vocal technique looking like, and virtually and remotely, what does it look like?
It depends on what I'm doing. If I'm singing and I'm singing into a microphone, then you don't have to project all that much. And it depends on what kind of music you're singing. I mean, obviously, different people have different performance styles and all of that. But I find that using the mic is going to preserve your voice a lot better. So if you try and yell into the mic, or, you feel like you still need to project to the back of the room, but you have a mic in your hand, you're overdoing it and you're overtaxing your voice. So maybe not necessary to over project. You need to know how to use a mic. That's a big technique. Other than, I don't do public speaking, so something like that is not really in my wheelhouse. Okay. When you're talking about something like this, again, I'm not really thinking a whole lot of my mic technique necessarily, because this is how I would actually do a voiceover script. I'm close enough on the mic now that it sounds fairly intimate, and I normally wouldn't even wear headphones when I'm doing a script, because I don't need to hear anyone else's voice in my head. If I'm in a session with a client and it's remote, then yes, I need to hear them in the headphones and I need to wear them. But if I'm doing something on my own, I don't actually use headphones, because I don't necessarily need to hear the resonance of my voice. I want to hear it more real. I want to be real with that script. I want to connect to it, and I just want to speak it. So I can see that it's recording. The WAV file is there on the recording software, so I know something is happening. It's not like I'm, completely unaware of that, but I don't need the extra resonance, which can be distracting. It depends.
Yeah. So for those who are listening, talk about what resonance means.
I would call it the vibrations of your vocal cords in your head, in your own head. So what I'm hearing now because of the headphones is greatly changed from what I would hear if I was just speaking without the headphones and not paying attention to the mic. Because my voice is being interpreted by this mic and then fed into my earphones. Mm-hmm. And I want to hear more what my voice sounds like naturally. And when we're just talking, when we don't have headphones on, we're just, then that sounds more natural. And it puts you to a better place when you're actually trying to be natural in a script.
That makes sense. So especially if you're recording for someone else, if you have the headphones off, then you don't feel as technical. Because I do tend to approach things a little bit more formally when there is a lot of gear in front of me.
It can definitely get distracting. Yeah. And then it becomes more of an acting job, because not only are you have a microphone in your face and you're talking to a blank wall, but you have the headphones on. Right. and you have someone else's ear in your head. Yeah. But you get used to these things. Yeah. It's just something that's part of my job. So
So I would guess it would be good. It's good to get used to it. And I think for those who might be starting out, it might be good to try to find a way to make yourself as connected as possible to your audience. So With me, when I'm recording the podcast, I definitely have to have video. So even if the video is not recorded, I definitely need to see you. I need to see, your interaction and engagement. I'm also someone who is used to doing a lot of public speaking. So I do get an immediate response from something that I say. And so when I see it, I love to see how something lands, and I can adjust if necessary. So it's good. I think what would be good for my audience to do is to figure out how best they need to connect to their audience. So if they need the headphones, great. If they don't, if they want to create a system that helps them, then I guess that would help them be better with their vocal technique.
Yeah, I think it's a good idea to get used to both, actually, if you need to, because if I let the headphones distract me from what I'm doing, because I can hear my own voice in my own head way louder than I would if I didn't have these on, then I would never be able to work with a remote client. It wouldn't work. I'd be so distracted. You need to get used to the sound of your own voice. That's number one. That's a big thing. And lots of people have a problem with that.
Yeah, they do.
It's surprising how many people have a problem with that.
They do.
When I mention this, the only thing that I tell people is that you're hearing vibrations in a different way than anyone else is experiencing them. So what you're hearing isn't necessarily what someone you're talking to is hearing. And I think you just need to let it go. And know what you sound like on a recording. Because again, the recording is another interpretation of your voice being heard in a different way. So once you know what that sounds like, you can get used to it and you can get past it.
This is great. And also get used to it, get past it, but then start to value it, right?
Oh yeah, definitely.
Because I think the thing that a lot of people are concerned with is, oh gosh, my voice sounds squeaky, or it's really deep for a woman, or whatever the thing is. But when you're going back to what you started with, the audio branding, there is someone who needs your voice in just the way that you present it, So,
and I think a lot of people are maybe not hydrating enough, like the squeakiness could have something to do with that. There's a whole host of different things that would cause that. And just being more conscious of how you're communicating can help a lot.
You breathe a lot, right?
I do.
Yeah. So in that consciousness, yeah, right? I think, staying connected to the breath will help people become more conscious, right?
Yeah, but as a vocalist, I don't need as much breath over a longer period of time. So that helps a lot too.
Interesting.
And I would almost say if someone wanted to get into voiceovers and they were really serious about it, there are two ways that you can sort of improve where you go with this. Almost three. Acting classes, obviously. Improv classes are fantastic. That's not actually something I've done because I'm a little afraid of that, I will admit. But singing, even if you can't hold a tune, just, because people can learn how to sing even if they don't think they can. Singing and learning breath control can be huge. Understanding not necessarily the notes on the page, but how different notes sound together. So in a script, if I'm going down on a end line, on the end of a sentence too many times, it starts to sound monotonous. So you want to go down in certain points where it's the finishing of a sentence and the finishing of a thought, but you might want to go slightly up on some other ones, not like up, but, like you might want to sort of, like I liken it to the arrows, down, middle, and up. And I'll mark up my sheets sometimes like that. And you can modulate where you land in certain places to make it not necessarily sing-songy, but less boring. And it's a delicate balance, but you'll get the hang of it if you practice.
So what it sounds like to me also is you get a script, you're also doing some markups, just some ideas as to what the rhythm and the tone of the script would be. But I would think then, even though you're turning something around quickly, right? you probably record a script a few times and then pick the best. Is this right?
When I'm doing a script for a client, I'll actually usually give them 2 times through with some repeated lines. So some of the lines I'll repeat with different inflections so that they have a choice of what they could use depending on how their video turns out, what they want to do with it. And then they have lots to go with. And usually the first time through it's still okay. It's just, I kind of feel like I'm a little more relaxed the second time through. And it all depends on the script and how long the script is and how well I know the product or service and how often I've done scripts for them before. Right. So, there's a lot of things that go into this. But I will say one of the really good things that you would need as a voice actor is to be able to sight read really fast, to be able to read what's on that page and speak it very quickly. And I'm not saying speak quickly. I'm saying being able to read what's on the page and speak it almost without an error, the first time through. And I'm not saying that's what you record. Like, I will read something without recording it before I go into the booth, just to make sure that I know where all the pauses are, where I want to make the inflections, what needs to be emphasized, little things like that.
Interesting. So it looks like what I'm hearing, so I'm really excited about the things that you're articulating. We've got the possibility of, especially now, with technology and with all of this equipment being, accessible and available, we do have the potential to create a vocal environment, I guess is the best way to say it, for our audience. But in that, we also have to be doing some self-care. We have to remain hydrated. We have to make sure we're understanding exactly how our voice is being picked up and being perceived. Be okay with that, but at the same time, being very clear about how to use the voice so that it is not detracting from the communication we're trying to get across.
Yeah, exactly. My job is to get across the meaning in that script so that I am making people interested in what's happening on a screen or in the radio commercial or whatever it is that I'm doing. I'm not there to detract from it. I'm there to add to it. So in a lot of cases, especially in video, not so much in radio because that's all theater of the mind and you need to give them something to anchor to. But in video, I'm almost voice under because I'm not there to take away from the visuals on the screen. I'm there to enhance it. And so it's not about me. It's never about me. That's kind of what I love about this. I can be there. I can enhance the message. I can help this company make a lot of money, and I'm happy doing that. And being a part of that process fulfills me in a way that I actually hadn't understood I could be fulfilled until I found this very strange occupation.
Sure. That's great. So, oh gosh, so just for our audience's edification, voiceover is used where? So tell us the myriad different places where we almost forget that there's voiceover involved. So tell us where we can find voiceover.
Well, the basics we all know about. So audiobooks and e-learning. So anyone who's done a course through their company, generally, if they're doing it through a computer, they're listening to someone explain what's going on in that course. That can be a very good living all by itself. But there's also animation and video games. Oh my goodness, the amount of acting that goes into the video games these days is insane. Like I so admire the people who do that. It's incredible. But then there's also kiosks. There's the announcements on trains. There's there's commercials, obviously. There's every web explainer video you've ever seen. There's all of these anthem videos, which I explain as here we are, this is what we do, and we're proud. Those kind of videos that you see on their websites, right? I do a lot of those. And then there's all there's the IVR, there's the phone trees and all of that kind of thing.
What's IVR?
I'm not sure exactly what it stands for, but it's the phone trees. It's like, when you call up a bank.
Press 1.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. All of that. Yeah. I'm not sure what it stands for because, not off the top of my head. But yeah, that and on hold, which is almost like mini commercials inside your phone tree. So it's inside when you call someone on the phone and you're listening to commercials and music happening over the phone line while you're waiting for them to pick up. That's called on hold. So there's a ton of this kind of stuff, and there's only more. There's only more coming. So
is there like agents that you have for this, or is it just everybody just Googles and says, let me find but there are vocal agents?
Yeah,
I'm thinking.
There are actually voiceover agents. Okay. Yes, there are. Some of them are union and some of them are not. And there is a different agent, many different agents in each state and each province and every country.
I thought that there's a union for this.
Oh, there is definitely. Yeah. SAG-AFTRA, which is the combined television and film and all of that. It's part of that. So there is a pretty big union for that. Although, honestly, they don't pay a whole lot of attention to the working voiceover people. They may pay attention to the big names in animation, but less so to the peons.
Okay. Well, not a peon.
Well,
it's just somebody who's doing it every day.
Yeah, the working voice actor that basically just, they're doing e-learning, they're doing commercials. Commercials can be a part of that too, but non-broadcast stuff. Okay. So yeah, it can get kind of lost in the mix. So there's a lot of non-union that's going on. Okay. But that also means that as a voice actor, you need to be able to negotiate for a decent pay for yourself. It's not regulated if you're not in the union. So you need to be the person who negotiates your fee.
So where do we find, if someone wants to do that, because here's something that I'm very clear about, being someone who's in a very creative field. You have people who enter the field, and because they're willing, they're like so excited, they're like, sure, $5. Yeah. So where do you find online the appropriate rates that if someone decides they're going to become a voiceover actor, where do you find online the appropriate rates that you should be charging so as not to undercut people who've been in it for several years?
Yeah, there is a really good rate sheet called the GVAA rate sheet, rate guide. And it goes through, and let me just find it because I will put it in the chat here.
Great, and then I can share it with the audience.
Yeah. So what that does is it gives you an idea of what a voice actor should charge depending on how many people are going to see it, whether it's broadcast or non-broadcast, and where it's going to be shown. So is it local in one little area? Is it an entire state? Is it a bunch of states, so a region? Is it national or is it international? Does it go through Canada and the US and the UK? Is it European? Is it, there's all sorts of different things that you might look at. And it also depends on the genre. So typically telephone stuff pays a little less than most other stuff. Interesting. Just because, it's just, it's usually, one-off done and they can use it for as long as they want. Whereas when you're talking about broadcast, like a commercial, for instance, if it's national and it's being used for a year, then that's going to pay quite a bit because it's being seen by a lot of people and, people pay for that.
That's good.
And also, you get associated with a brand. So whether or not there is exclusivity, if your sound is being associated with a particular brand, then their competitor isn't going to hire you.
Right.
So that's also what you're getting compensated for.
Interesting. There is a person online. I can't remember his full name. I think it's Red Pepper. And he has such a distinct sound that that you definitely, if if he would be with one brand, I can't even imagine that he could be associated with another. So that's
so you just have to be careful.
Yeah. So it's good to know those kinds of things as well. People don't really think about exclusivity when they're doing work. So you have answered a bunch of amazing questions for us. So another question, and we're going to start to wrap up. So
Sure.
What do people misunderstand about the voiceover industry?
Ooh, that's a good question. I think they think it's easy. And it's not. When I started, I didn't realize how much went into this. And I understood as I went along, and my colleagues were very patient with me. But a lot of people will think, oh, I have a microphone, I have a good voice, I can do this, and they read a script, they make a demo for themselves, and it doesn't sound anything like anything competitive. You need these demos to sound like they could have aired. That's the point. The point is you're demonstrating what you feel you could do in the future. And you need them to sound like spots that actually were on the air in some capacity. So if you can't make your own spots sound like an actual commercial, you shouldn't be doing your own demo. This is for a commercial demo, obviously. But there are other demos of differing genres and all sorts of things. And really, when it comes right down to it, you shouldn't be doing your own demos. You're too close to it. You don't know your own strengths yet. And you need someone who's coaching you to tell you when you're ready to do it, because a demo is not a cheap venture at all. They can be quite expensive. But that's your calling card. That's like your business card as a voice actor. You need one. So at least a non-union working voice actor needs a demo.
Okay. So these are good things to know, especially the thought of, it's easy. Especially now I'm at home. I've got a microphone, a little laptop with Audacity.
There's a website, and I'm going to put this in the chat as well. It's called voiceoverextra.com. And I always direct people there because there's all sorts of articles there. There's all of the reputable coaches are mentioned there. And there are like $50, courses, I guess. They're like little webinars and stuff that you can take. So they're fairly cheap for all of this. And they just give you an idea of what the market is like and what being in voiceover is like, both the business and the acting portion of it. So the business and the creative. And it'll give you a better lay of the land than just listening to me talk.
Sure, and we appreciate that. So I think you've given us just a tremendous amount of valuable information, and we really appreciate it. So of course, I always like to make sure my audience can find you. So you're going to tell us where we can find you, and please tell us anything that we need to know about you.
Well, my voiceover website is at voiceoversandvocals.com. And my the audio branding podcast is at audiobrandingpodcast.com. So pretty simple. And I can put those links in here too.
Fantastic. So thank you so much for your time today. This was tremendous, and we got a lot of technical information and as well thoughts about self-care as someone who's using your voice. So thank you for your time.
Thanks. I appreciate you having me on.
Thank you for tuning in to 10,000 Women, 10,000 Stages. Share this episode with someone who needs it. Find us at 10,000women10,000stages.com.